Some people walk into your life for just a moment, and yet they leave a mark that lasts forever. One hug from a stranger can change a life, and sometimes it can even solve a mystery. Before we dive into this emotional story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more heart-touching and thrilling stories. From which country are you watching my video, as I can see where my video is being watched? It was a cold Thursday evening when Emma boarded the last train home from her shift at the hospital. The seats were half empty, and the atmosphere was quiet, except for the gentle clatter of the train on its tracks. Emma, a young nurse in her late 20s, had just finished a long double shift. Her eyes were tired, her back ached, and all she wanted was to go home, eat something warm, and sleep. As she sat down near the window, she noticed a woman sitting 2 rows ahead, visibly shaking. Her shoulders trembled with every breath, and her hands were clutched tightly around a small purse. Emma couldn't see her face clearly, but the posture was unmistakable. The woman was crying. Emma glanced around the train. No one else seemed to notice or care. Everyone was either on their phones or lost in their own world. Emma hesitated for a moment, wondering if it was her place to interfere. But something tugged at her heart. Maybe it was the way the woman tried so hard to stay silent, or the way she kept wiping her cheeks when she thought no one was looking. Emma stood up quietly and walked over. She didn't say anything at first. She just sat beside the woman and gently touched her shoulder. The woman flinched slightly, surprised, but when she turned and looked at Emma, their eyes locked, and in that second, Emma saw pain. Deep, silent pain. "Are you okay?" Emma asked softly. The woman tried to speak but broke into more tears instead. Emma didn't push her. She simply opened her arms, offering a hug. At first, the woman hesitated, unsure. But then, like a child, desperate for comfort, she fell into Emma's arms and cried quietly on her shoulder. They sat like that for a while, saying nothing, just a hug, just warmth, just kindness from one stranger to another. Eventually, the woman pulled back slightly and whispered, "Thank you." Her voice was broken, dry, like someone who hadn't spoken in a long time. Emma smiled gently and replied, "Whatever it is, you're not alone." The train came to a stop. The woman stood up quickly, looking nervous. I have to go," she said. Emma nodded, not asking any questions. Before leaving, the woman reached into her purse, pulled out a small crumpled paper, and gently placed it in Emma's hand. Then she disappeared into the night. Back at home, Emma opened the note. It only had 4 words written in shaky handwriting. "You saved my life." She stared at it, confused and a little shaken. What had just happened? The next morning, Emma was getting ready for another long shift when there was a knock at her apartment door. She opened it and found 2 uniformed police officers standing there. Her heart jumped. "Are you Emma Carter?" one of them asked. "Yes." "Is something wrong?" she asked nervously. "No," the officer said with a smile. "Actually, we're here to thank you." Emma blinked. "Thank me?" The officer nodded. "A woman came into our station late last night. She was distraught, emotionally unstable, and carrying a weapon. She said she was going to do something drastic until a stranger on a train hugged her. She said that hug reminded her that someone cared. That stopped her." Emma's hand covered her mouth. "She described you perfectly." The other officer added, "If you hadn't reached out to her, we might have had a tragedy on our hands. She checked herself into a facility this morning and asked us to find the woman who saved her." Emma stood frozen. A single hug. Just a small act of kindness. Later that evening, the whole story began to unfold. The woman, her name was Rachel, had been missing for several days. Her family had reported her disappearance, but she had left no clues behind. After losing her child in a tragic accident, Rachel had fallen into depression. She had pushed away friends and family and vanished without a trace. The night Emma found her on the train, Rachel had been planning to end her life. The weapon in her purse was real. The location she was headed to was known for such dark intentions. But that one hug stopped her. That one moment gave her just enough light to reconsider. News of Emma's act spread quickly. It wasn't long before people in her neighborhood and even strangers online started calling her a hero. But Emma didn't feel like one. In her heart, she had only done what anyone with compassion should do. Still, the experience changed her deeply. Days later, Emma was invited to a small gathering at the hospital where she worked. To her surprise, the mayor was in attendance. With flashing cameras and applause, he presented her with a Community Bravery Award. But when Emma went up to speak, she simply said, "I'm just a nurse. I help people. And that night, I just saw someone who needed a hug. That's all." Behind the crowd stood Rachel, her eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were different. She wasn't broken anymore. She was healing. Emma walked toward her, and they embraced again, this time not as strangers, but as two souls forever connected by one moment of kindness. The story didn't end there. Rachel went on to start a foundation for mental health support. She named it the Hug Initiative in honor of that train ride and the woman who stopped her from stepping into darkness. Emma became a silent partner in the foundation, using her own experiences as a nurse to guide programs that offered emotional support to people suffering silently. Over the months, many people wrote letters to Emma, sharing how her story had inspired them to act kindly, to look around more, to speak to someone who looked like they were struggling. She realized that even the smallest actions could have the biggest ripples. One evening, while walking home from work, Emma saw a young man sitting alone on a bench, crying quietly. She paused, remembering that night on the train. She walked over, sat beside him, and placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. He looked at her, surprised. She smiled softly. "Are you okay?" And just like that, the chain continued. Sometimes it only takes one moment of compassion to turn someone's story around. Emma hadn't set out to be a hero. She just chose to care, and that choice saved a life. So if you ever see someone struggling, don't ignore it. Your smallest action could be the miracle they've been waiting for.